Hut 8 has signed a 15-year, $7 billion U.S. lease with Fluidstack. Let's talk about that with Asher Genoot, CEO of Hut 8. Thanks for joining us today, Asher.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So this centers around a site in Louisiana. What's currently there?
It was a hunting ground before that had a lot of transmission line and power capacity. And so we actually bought about 600 acres of land. And then now we have an option to scale that to 3,000 acres.
Okay. And the deal is with Fluidstack and Anthropic. Can you explain the role of each in this process and what you're building exactly?
We announced two deals today. We announced a strategic partnership with Anthropic and Fluidstack to build 2.3 gigawatts, up to 2.3 gigawatts of capacity at Anthropic's option to be able to scale and to support their computing needs, starting with this 245 megawatt campus. Then we announced a signing of this actual campus. It's a $7 billion deal across a 15-year tenure, and that deal is fully financially backstopped by Google and their credit. And that's the full $7 billion in addition to other pass-through costs as well.
Okay, so what's the timeline for the build?
The timeline is building throughout 2026, and the campus will come online throughout 2027.
Wow, so that's quite that'll be quite quick. Are you guys positioned to do that already?
We are. We have great partners. We announced, in addition to it, that the financing, we're partnering with JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs. We'll get 85% financing at SOFR plus 225 target. And then in addition to that, from an operating perspective, Jacobs is going to be our EPCM partner to design and build the facility with local subcontractors that we've already partnered with. And then Vertiv is going to supply the supply chain for long lead time items. So we announced a holistic deal and the full execution agreements to deliver that project as well.
Okay, so you've repositioned yourself to provide energy for the AI build-out. Where have you had success so far previous to announcing today?
We've built a large energy infrastructure platform. We have about 1,000 megawatts of capacity online today. About 700 megawatts supports Bitcoin compute, 300 megawatts of power generation and 4 power plant supporting the Ontario power grids. And then we have 5 co-location data centers in our platform today. When we look at our development pipeline, the total pipeline, including the gigawatt that we have today, is about 9.5 gigawatts of capacity. So we really understand power, how to develop projects, and really ultimately it's what is the technology that is best suited to consume that power, and we sit at that intersection between power and technology and build infrastructure to be able to support it.
Can you give me an example of that? Because you make a good point, sort of what power you need for what. Give me an example of how that would work.
So if we think about compute, today we have data centers that support ASICs that power the Bitcoin security network. But now we have data centers that support AI compute that are GPUs or TPUs that power AI compute. In our co-location data centers, we actually have normal CPU data centers that power everyday servers for our customers as well. And so as we think about that side of the business, it's really powering compute of all types. However, we also believe long-term that you'll continue to see increases in use cases, especially with the reshoring of advanced manufacturing. You're looking at a lot of LNG facilities. You're looking at liquid hydrogen nitrification. So you'll see a semiconductor fab manufacturing. All of these facilities being built in the United States will require more consumption of power, and that power, as a result, and that infrastructure needs to be built. I think a common misconception is an increase in power consumption is bad. I was actually with an energy executive from PJM, which is the utility in Pennsylvania, and they said that their calculations show that a gigawatt of additional power demand from data center demand actually decreases the energy rate by about 10% for their residents who are paying energy bills. And so we're excited to support that continued growth of technology through the scaling of power generation and use cases.
Because you were a Bitcoin miner, what has been the biggest challenge for you to pivot?
Probably credibility and building the relationships of trust that we can build infrastructure at scale. We started this endeavor about 2 years ago, and it took us that time to build the trust amongst the customers, where now we've announced one deal with a customer, but have many others that we built relationships with as well, and being able to deploy and execute for them. The great thing about Bitcoin is 2 things with that background. One is we have a lot of access to power. We really understood power. And the second is we really understood infrastructure. We built substation capacities. We built all of this high voltage, medium voltage electrical work. And people are starting to see that that technical ability and construction ability actually has a lot of impact and use cases to the benefit in deploying these assets at this speed.
Interesting. All right, Asher, I got to leave it there. I'm out of time with you. But thanks for joining us. Asher Genoot, CEO, Hut 8.